Says preparing to stream. We're probably live.
Let's see. Just waiting.
And we're live.
There we are. We are. How's everybody doing? Welcome. Welcome back to What's Up People News. Y'all see, we're back. I hope you guys had a good week since last week. As you see, we do have a special guest. But for everybody that is here for the first time, welcome. We are a local online news show. We talk about local, national, and international news. I am your co-host, Aaron Casey. Pass it off to that way. There we go.
Look at no splint, everybody. No splint. Yay! I'm your host, Lana Quest.
Yes. And as you see, everyone, again, I hope everybody's had a good week so far. Even though it's been blazing hot, records off the charts. I'm talking, it's so hot. The in Siberia, in the Arctic Circle, it's hot over there. Anyway, it's hot. But I hope everybody's had a good week so far. We do have a special guest in the building, all the way from California. We have Mr. Lourin Hubbard with us. Everybody, give him a round of applause.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here, guys.
We're happy
Thank
you're
you for
here.
coming.
Yes.
So before we actually get into the interview portion of the show today, please, for all the new viewers, even some people in California that are tuning in that might not know who you are, if you can give them a brief background of how you got into politics.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of an odd story, but it's not a unique story. So I got into this race. Let me give you a little bit about my background. So I'm the son of a single working class mother here in the Central Valley, is where I was born. I always like to point out that she was one of these folks that worked multiple jobs, but we still needed food stamps to get by.
Right.
And she got a job in working at a hospital, and we were eventually able to rent a nice house. Listen, no rent, we couldn't buy anything, but we were able to rent a nice house, and we were like on that path to living the American dream. Like, I got into college. So I'm the first in my family to attend a 4-year university. And we were on that path to living the American dream. But everything changed the moment that my mom got sick, and that American dream turned into a living nightmare.
Right.
And so it really kind of broke my heart to see her crying over having to decide to pay for her prescriptions, pay the PG&E bill, paying rent. And my mother fell into that hole of people that have health insurance, but with the deductible so high that it becomes virtually useless.
Right.
She had one of those useless insurance policies. So she decided to stop taking her prescriptions and using that money to pay other bills. And it was a decision that ultimately cost her life. So she passed away in my junior year up here at Fresno State. And that was back in 2011. And I still remember getting medical bills less than a month after she passed away. And I was thinking to myself, how can our healthcare system be so broken? And what could I do to kind of fix the problems that we have? So I decided to get my degree in political science and started working in the public sector. So I went to work for the Department of Social Services, helping families like mine get connected to benefits, whether it was Medicaid or job placements, food stamps, those sorts of things. And I kept seeing a pattern of folks that are working full time, but still qualifying for the government assistance. I was like, there's something not right there.
Right.
And so I moved up through the ranks into retirement pension planning for our public employees. And even there was kind of a unique situation where I was helping folks that are janitors in our schools, school administrators, state employees, county employees, that have a pension but still need supplemental savings for retirement. I remember talking to a person that saved $1 million for retirement, but still was working because when he retired, doesn't come with insurance. His wife was 52, he was 63. His wife wouldn't qualify for Medicare then.
Right.
So he kept working. Right now, currently in my current job, I'm an operations manager at the Water Resources Control Board here for the state of California. And I am on the front line of conservation efforts against climate change and environmental justice. And I also serve as our board's racial equity chair. And that line of work has opened my eyes to not only the water issues that are in California, but also the disparity between our disadvantaged communities and what
we're gonna get into that.
So, yeah, don't
Not to cut you off, but we got some questions for you.
This is all stuff that's like, this has been going on for this long, and we've had a congressman for 20 years who has done absolutely nothing about it. And so I just have the mind that, you want to be the change, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. So I decided to get into this race.
Nice.
That's a great
let's
story.
let's stop it there. Let's transition because everybody, please, if you haven't, please like, share, subscribe, and share this link. This is going to be definitely a good interview. We had to stop him because he was already getting into it. So everybody, please, especially if you're in the state of California or you have family members out there, please share this link so that they can know about Mr. Lourin Hubbard, especially people in the 22nd district. So please. Again, like, share, subscribe, and share the link so people can see this interview. But with that being said, let's get right into it. Miss Lana, you have the floor.
Oh, I have the floor. Thank you again, Lourin,
no
for
problem.
coming. Yes. So you were just about to get into like climate and environmental, climate injustice and environmental racism, which is like something we talk about a lot around here and trying to get people of color more involved in this. So my first question is, me and Casey kind of came up with this question because we wanted to put climate, the environment, and agriculture together because they're all intertwined. And they tend to affect low-income communities and low-income and communities of color the most. Central Valley is getting warmer and drier. Urbanization is bringing like asphalt, concrete. There's less fog, therefore there's less moisture for farming. So this in turn jacks up the prices of fruits and vegetables, which again affects low income and people of color. Even the cost of water is going up with that. So can you please tell people what your agriculture plan is and how combating climate change will further your vision for this plan?
Certainly. So like when it comes to climate, that's a very big issue for me because it's great to talk about other issues, education and what we're going to do with infrastructure and all these other important issues. But if there's no human beings left on the planet, education and infrastructure don't matter a whole lot.
Right.
And so it's recognizing that time is running out to do something meaningful to combat the climate change crisis that we have. And it's running out because these giant banks like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs actually have climate funds. When they start doing things, they don't just do them out of the kindness of their heart. So even that is shifting the conversation. But we still have congressmen like my own in this district who say climate change is a hoax. So what we need to do is be a leader in renewable energy technologies. One way that we could do that is by investing in retrofitting buildings. I cannot tell you how awesome it was. I just bought a house. My wife and I just bought our new house last year. We went from in the summer. My wife is she doesn't like heat, we'll say. So she keeps our house at like 70 degrees. And she's a registered nurse, so she's like, I work to pay the PG&E. Right. And so we were having like $400, $500 PG&E bills. We move into this house that has solar. My PG&E bill for last month in May was $12.
Wow.
Wow.
It is. I can't tell you. Not only the
Wow.
savings is it great, but that if we go into these lower income communities that are already getting subsidized, first of all, I think PG&E should be a public utility. That's not a private company. But if we go into these lower income communities, retrofit these buildings, that's money that people aren't paying on PG&E that they could put directly into their pockets and spend elsewhere in our economy. So retrofitting buildings, making things more energy efficient. Transportation is one we just did here in Fresno. Is we made all of our public transit buses zero fare. So if you wanted to get anywhere, you could just hop on the bus and it'll take you wherever you want to go. Well, not everywhere you want to go, but on the route without any cost. Expanding that to where we get buses that go to more places is an investment that I think we can make. But to go really head on to the issue and confront environmental injustice that we have in our communities, we have one of the worst asthma rates in the country. That's because we have one of the worst air, some of the worst air in the country. So we need to create an environmental justice fund that could tackle these issues, that go, instead of putting money to things that don't matter, invest those monies back into the communities that are directly impacted. Right. So we have a fee and dividend plan program in the state of California, which is great, but it doesn't do a great job of targeting where the pollution is. So that money is spread throughout the state. So if pollution is happening in my district, and people are paying fees, those fees and those dividends can go anywhere else in the state. Okay. I would rather have us have a more targeted system to where those dividends are reimbursed in the communities that are being affected by the pollution.
Now, who determines where the dividends go?
Our legislature.
Okay. They just say, okay, here, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or do they actually run tests to determine like where the...
Let's put it this way. We have a system to pay for groundwater, cleaning our groundwater and stuff. There's a fund for that. We also have a fund for air quality. We used our air quality funds in communities that have bad groundwater. And groundwater funds. Right. I'm not there to make the rules now, but I think we just need to have, have accountability. Right. So we have these electronic polluters that I deal with at my job every day that are where we have trouble with runoff into our groundwater. And we have right now communities in my district specifically that can't turn on the faucet and drink the water that comes from it. It's these little unincorporated towns where the people are Black and brown, that it would cost money to be hooked up to a municipal water system, so folks don't. Right. And so you have people that are still paying their water bills. It's almost like Flint, Michigan, where people are paying water bills, but then have to spend $100 to get jugs of water from the grocery store to bathe, to cook, to wash their children with. Right. It's ridiculous. And we're sitting here 2021 in the greatest country on earth. Right. But we still have citizens that live, we still have people in our communities that live like it's a third world country.
Wow. Yeah. Whew.
We gotta do better.
Thank you. Yeah, we
do.
We really do. It's like there's no choice. So this next question is funny, and I'll tell you why it's funny. Because I literally Googled what has Devin Nunes done for District CA22. And I wrote this in so many different ways, and nothing.
Did becoming a national embarrassment come?
Right. The only thing that kept popping up was like his little crusade with the information from his committee when he ran to the White House to show Trump that, like, that's the only thing that kept, because that put him on the stage. Like, that was it. So anyway, and so Devin Nunes.
I couldn't think of anything.
Right, exactly. So even though, despite him not doing anything, Devin Nunes is still backed by a political machine. He has that behind him. Can you tell the people of California and, and beyond, because you getting to Congress is important for all of us. We need you to have that seat. Can you tell everyone what separates you? I know, from Devin Nunes, and what your vision is for California 2022.
I think what really separates me from Devin Nunes is that we do have a vision, we do have a plan, we have policies that improve everybody's life. The quality of life for everybody will go up. I think that Devin Nunes likes to focus on these make-believe issues, like people not saying Merry Christmas, or that, Cat in the Hat and all these made up things to focus on these culture wars, because he's not a man of substance.
Right.
There's no substance there. He just cries socialism at anything that he doesn't like is called socialism. To which my point is, all right, Devin, then you need to have your people that support you turn in their Social Security checks, go ahead and disenroll from Medicare. Don't call the police, don't call the fire department, all these different things that they're dependent on. Right. So my vision for not only our district, but our state and our country is an America that works for everybody, and doing the things that invest in our people, because these things aren't radical. We've done them before. America has made the choice to invest in education when it came to the GI Bill for most folks, not necessarily our Black troops that came back from World War II, but that's another thing we'll get into. But they decided to make the investment in education to where you could go to college practically free. The state of California 40 years ago had one of the best public university systems in the CSU system and UC system in the country, where someone could go to college and get a college degree for less than $500 a semester. So yeah, when these stories of folks that are, I worked to put myself through school, that's great, but it also didn't cost very much when you got there.
Right.
We deindustrialized our high schools to where people used to be able, folks like, my father had a friend who came out of high school, basically a mechanic, and did that, went to work in an auto body shop. Now he owns his own auto body shop and is living a great life. But we deindustrialized our high schools to bring that education in there to where folks could graduate from high school and be ready to have a career, right, and not necessarily need to go to trade school or go to universities. Right. So I think that needs to be a focus as well. One of the things that I would like to do specifically for my district is obviously bringing Medicare for all. And with that, we need doctors and providers to provide the healthcare that we don't have now. And so it's really odd that you have such a large community. Fresno, the city of Fresno has over 500,000 people. The next biggest town in the district is Visalia, who has over 100,000 people. But we don't have any medical schools between the Bay Area and Los Angeles. None. We've started to make the investment in having one, but that's something that the federal government can do, is directly invest in having that be done. Right. So when it comes to contrasting myself with Devin Nunes, I'm about making the investment in the people that turn around and stimulates our economy. We have growth. I just want that. I think everybody talks about the American dream and how, like, the FDR, chicken in every pot, a car in every driveway. Right. But the ability to own your own home is one of those things that, like, my mom didn't get to achieve. And I know it was a dream of hers, and she worked hard, really hard, harder than you really should have to for what she had and never achieved it.
Right.
And there's too many folks out there like my mom that are working hard, that are working 10, 12 hours, doing jobs that are backbreaking just to break even.
Right. Just to break even. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that. So we're going to go into education. I know that's important to you. It's important to all of us. So I read on the ACLU website the other day that Northern California is reporting that Central Valley schools are having an issue with anti-Blackness right now. That administrators are routinely silencing Black and Brown students. The students are doing, I don't want to say the schools, but like say a BLM project is being thrown out. Some of the kids, they're saying racial slurs. A biracial student was told his afro did not meet the requirements for a cultural waiver. Like, so I guess it was out of the dress code. So things like that's going on. So, and that's not just Central Valley. So let's just say that, like, it is not just your district, it is districts across America. But if you are elected to Congress, what can you do to ensure that the schools in your district are a place for learning, growth, and racial sensitivity?
Yeah, and I don't know if I can out my wife here. She works at as a registered nurse at a local school district, and they had employees do a equity retreat, and so there's not much diversity on the staff to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the issue. Mm-hmm. But there also is no support for staff that want to have true equitable education in terms of their own staff. Part of the thing is I think that there's no union, so teachers have to fall in line. You can be the teacher that I'm standing up for my students.
Okay.
You just get fired. Right. So one of the things that we need to do is start to tackle these inequalities is having education for the staff on cultural issues. I think most people, to me, it seems like racism being subtle in a classroom is kind of the reality for folks. I think we need to have that cultural sensitivity training to bring staff up to a level, and that will in turn empower them to address it when they see it in the classroom. Right. I think that we should have policies that over discipline Black and Brown students as compared to their white counterparts when they're doing, typical teenage acts, hijinks, if you will, where they get suspended and expelled for things, but the white student gets detention. Those need to be highlighted. It's funny because I think most people now don't like to think of themselves as racist. Right. You turn that light on yourself. And I think it's because racism is a part of it, but I also think class and income intersect it now to where a Black man that is getting out of a Tesla versus a Black man that's just getting out of a Ford Focus is seen differently. So and I think that part of that goes to what I would call white people being not minding diversity if the person of color thinks, talks, and acts in a way that I'm familiar with. They act like me. We have similar values in that sense. But to get back to those policies, I think we needed to have the equity training for staff that will trickle down to students, and then have those policies for students that are applied across the board,
Right.
and have this less of a leeway when it comes to disciplinary action, is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great start, honestly. And
Right.
those are my 3 questions. Casey, you want
Yeah,
to go on?
yeah. All right. Let's
Thank
get
you.
into it. All right. So I have 3 questions as well. My first question is Medicare for all, health type question. As a supporter for Medicare for all, you cite France and Canada. By citing those 2 countries, how will that help, or what is your message for potential voters and for your supporters for Medicare for all?
Well, I think Medicare for all is one of these, like, it's become a buzzword, if you will. That's kind of scary to conservatives. And so when I talk to conservative folks, and my family and friends included, giving them a model to look at, it helps, because obviously people in France and Canada, they're not revolting and, oh my gosh, it's unbearable. They're not,
Right.
there's no, French Revolution was 1789.
Right.
Right.
So I think that helps, but also to kind of ease the mind, because when I say Medicare for all, I mean single payer. I think you have a lot of folks that have kind of co-opted the for all part, and they'll say a platitude like healthcare for all, or we're for access to healthcare for all. And it's like, well, I mean, everybody technically has access to healthcare. You can't be turned away at a hospital if you go to the emergency room, but it's not the same thing. So giving them a model to look at when we talk about a single payer type system, where every person that lives there has a baseline of coverage, a base. Those 2, I highlight those 2 countries in particular because they also have supplemental insurance plans. So we're not dismantling private insurance. So if you want to get cosmetic surgery, like maybe, I mean, your boy, like people that want to get calf implants or whatever. That's such a weird thing that's the number 1 male plastic surgery is calf implants, but
not
okay.
Weird.
Not abs. Wow, you would think it'd be like a 6-pack. That's crazy.
Look at my legs.
Because no one wants to skip leg day. That way you can, I guess.
Right.
That's true.
But so there's that. We're not dismantling insurance companies. We're just saying that everybody should have a baseline of coverage. When we talk about people that have Medicare right now, I always get, they're going to ration your care. There's people with Medicare in this country right now. They love it because it is the most popular government program that we have. When people that have Medicare, when they go to the doctor, they don't go to a Medicare doctor. They just go to the doctor. When they have to go to the hospital, they don't go to the Medicare hospital. They just go to the hospital.
Right.
We have like Medicare Advantage plans here for folks that want to have additional coverage than what Medicare provides them. That marketplace could still be there, but we're just eliminating the profit motive. There's certain things people always say, like, Lauren, all your policies, you sound like a socialist. I'm a capitalist. I just have a recognition that even in capitalism, there's such things as market failure. Right. Healthcare is one of those things that there is market failure, because the profit motive is to take money in and not pay anything out when it comes to care. And so using those examples as countries that have a single payer type system and what they pay overall versus what the cost and benefit to the citizens is one thing that I think people would really love.
Right.
I think people get caught up in the word tax. So yeah, your taxes would go up. But when I look at my pay stub today, I see federal tax and state tax, and that may be lower than what France and Canada pay. But what else is on there on my pay stub is health insurance, this insurance, this. So we're talking about giving you more money with better care. The Medicare for All is one of those things where I have had to learn how to speak to folks about it. And just to set the discussion here, when I talk about how to speak to people on it, we always, as Democrats and progressives, we always look at folks that are like these poor white people and think, how can you vote for Republicans who aren't advocating for policies that benefit you economically? And on the flip side, we look down on them for that. But on the flip side, now as a candidate, I'm doing call time with donors across this country that are very wealthy. And I mean, I'm very upfront with it. Yeah, I'm probably going to raise your taxes to pay for some of these things. But they're donating, giving money to my campaign, and they're, advocating voting for me. That's not technically with their economic interest either, but it's their values. And I think we have to talk to people in terms of values when it comes to Medicare for All. I believe healthcare is a human right. A lot of these conservative folks that I talk to don't necessarily think that, but what they do value is that dollar. So in terms of this is how this benefits you directly, monetarily, is the thing that we have to, ways we have to address it.
And I want to just add something. It's a small thing on top of the money factor. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that paperwork is also involved in that. And just by eliminating the paperwork itself that people have to go through, or just paperwork in general, we can save over $500 million with that. So that's just another aspect that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to, how can we save money? How can we make this better? And just the paperwork alone, that's a lot of just money that's being saved.
Paperwork alone. I mean, the overhead cost for Medicare is 2%. And to put that in perspective, if my premium for myself is $100, it's not, but let's say it's $100. For the average insurance cost, 25 to 28% is administrative cost. So before any care is given, only at least $75 of the $100 I pay per month to be used towards my care. I think I just feel dirty when you think about this last pandemic, right? I still had to pay my health insurance, even though I was told to I couldn't go to the doctor for non-emergency situations, but they're still taking $1,200 a month for me, and I couldn't use the services. So do I get a check back or something?
Exactly.
That's what I'm, and so it's like, I think when people stop to think about, like, wait a minute, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, and we can go on. I'm gonna go on to the next question, but thank you for that. My next question has to deal with education. I actually should have led with this one right after we got done, but that would have been a good segue. Anyway, my next question, again, dealing with education. Betsy DeVos didn't do a good job when she was education secretary for the students or the school. It was just a bad job. And now we have the Biden administration trying to cancel a small portion of student debt, but still trying to help people out. As a champion of education, what will you do to push the message that everyone deserves quality education?
I think for me, education starts with our youngest children and that pre-K education. As a person that I paid $18,000 for my two girls to go to preschool last year. Yeah, I know. And then we were doing our taxes, and they're like, "Hey, you get a $1,200 credit for that." Oh, okay, great. But we found that the learning outcomes are better for people that have preschool, pre-K education.
Right.
They tend to do better in school. They
Mm-hmm.
tend to want to go further in school.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to make the investment that not only attracts quality teachers, because that's a part of the education, but also make the investment to have quality materials and books to learn from.
Right.
There are too many people in classrooms that are falling apart with books that are from 1978. And I like went to the same high school as my mother. So it was kind of cool being in like second generation, but also not very cool because the science book, the biology book, you could see stamped. My friend, my mom's friend's dad had the same science book that I was using.
Wow.
27 years later or something like that. I was like, yeah, it's not great. So that's what we need to do as well. But I think we also need to do a better job of making the investment in folks that want to pursue other apprenticeship opportunities and trade opportunities as well. I remember being like in early as junior high and high school, and you would go into like the counselor's office and they would have a picture of a house with a person that had a high school education, a picture of a house of the person with a bachelor's degree, and then a house of the person with an advanced degree. And that's the kind of model that we set.
Right.
So without any recognition that there are folks that learn differently, that have different aspirations, maybe I'm not cut out to be an advanced degree person, but I work well with my hands. How do I still make a living? Focusing on this is like one of the things that I heard Jesse Philippe talk about was focusing on folks to give them a career, not necessarily just an education. That would be one of the things I would like to focus on. As a person that went to higher education, I didn't have the choice to go to college. It was my mom told me from like dropping me off at the bus stop early on that knowledge is power. And if you don't finish, I will kill you. So that was like we had to go
how long it takes. You finish it.
Right.
I'm glad that was instilled in me, the value of education was instilled in me. But what we also need to learn about education is it's not only providing people with knowledge, but it is also a form of social mobility. That plaque in that teacher in that counselor's office is true. People that pursue higher education do tend to have better quality of life in terms of income and that sort of thing, but not everybody's cut out for it. So I would love to have Pell Grants for people to go to trade schools. I would like to have the investment in community colleges to have trade schools, because there's a lot of trade schools that are these private institutions where people cost an arm and a leg. When you talk about Betsy DeVos, my wife, before she started becoming a registered nurse at the university here, she actually got a paralegal degree from Heald College, who was proven to defraud students. And I remember when we were dating, she would go to like the financial aid office and she like took out student loans to pay for class, but then never got any money herself. And I was like, what are you talking about? The school directly took her student loan. And I was like, I've gone to Fresno State for a while, and that's not how that works. And so that was proven. They were defrauding students, and Betsy DeVos did her absolute best to protect that institution, not the consumers. So I think that we need to have people in office that are looking out for their constituents and not these corporations. Everything comes down to corporations. When it comes to student loan debt, we decide to, as a country, 10, 15 years ago, not to make these investments in community college, in higher education, in trade schools, to where schools themselves had to raise tuition and fees for the funding they weren't getting from the government. And that in turn led to people that if you wanted to pursue it, higher education, you had to take out student loans. So those student loan debts are a dead weight.
Right.
People can't buy houses. People aren't starting jobs. When we talk about buying houses, people aren't building wealth. That is the number one way that people build wealth in this country, is through their home. We're not having that done. So it's a tough decision right now to cancel student loan debt. I understand that. I get it. As a person that has student loans, I know. But I think it's an investment we need to make, because the benefit of it outweighs the negative. And I think that there's a lot of folks that right now have a like, what about me mentality, that think that if someone else is getting something, that must mean they must be getting less of something. But we need to recognize that that preamble to the Constitution says we the people of the United States, and that a burden carried by one of us is a burden on all of us.
Yeah, I agree. And real quick, again, I'm sorry, everybody, I keep having to piggyback, but he's saying a lot of great points. And some things that I really care about as far as trade school. That's very, very important. I agree with some people just, aren't necessarily, I won't say equipped, but some people like working with their hands, like you said. And trade school is something that people shouldn't look down on. Somebody that's a woodworker, that makes glass, like those are very important jobs. People need furniture. People need stuff to drink out of. Windows.
People need plumbers. People need plumbers and electricians. What you mean?
Those are very respectable jobs, and they make a lot of money. But people don't talk about that. But I definitely agree with that.
But we have a housing crisis in this country, where we need to have folks that are equipped to build houses, that are knowledgeable in building the things that we need. So when we talk about things like a Green New Deal, like to me, a federal jobs program is part of that, and the training is part of that.
I agree. And actually, that is a good segue into my last question. And so on your page, on your website, with all your platforms, again, we'll have links to where you can get that into the show. On your website, one of your platforms is Federal Jobs Guarantee. Now, if you can explain a little bit about what that is that similar to infrastructure and people getting contracts through the government, again, to, build houses, fix things like that? Is that the same as infrastructure? And again, can you explain what that is for the
Certainly. So to me, I have a broad definition of what infrastructure is, just like how our current infrastructure bill that's being argued in the Congress today has things that not only roads and bridges, but other things. I think the pandemic has taught us the importance of having high-speed broadband as a public utility. It's no longer a thing, well, I would love to have it. That's not a reality anymore. So for me, a federal jobs guarantee is anybody that wants to have a job can have a job. And there are plenty of jobs to go around. One of the things I think is kind of crazy to think about when we talk about jobs in this country is that our inflation, one of the ways they control inflation is how many jobs are available, right? We use unemployment as a metric to control inflation. When America is at a full employment at 3-4% unemployment, in reality, in Black and brown communities, that number is closer to 16%, 18% unemployment rates. There are folks that have 2-3 jobs that still are on government assistance, like we talked about earlier, because in order to get healthcare at one job, you have to work 30 or more hours. So the powers that be cut them off at 29. So anybody that wants a job can have one, whether it's building housing that we need, whether it's fitting buildings for solar, whether it is building solar farms, whether it's building wind turbines, whether it's picking up trash on the side of the road. There are jobs that need to be done in this community that the federal government can make the investment in so doing. I think the last time I looked at a federal jobs program was earlier this year. The cost to the federal government was about $680 billion.
Wow.
The first year. The second year, that cost was 400. The third year, 225. As the jobs guarantee goes on, you start getting savings back from more people employed means more people paying taxes. More people employed with a living wage, the less government resources being used in forms of assistance. So the benefit goes on and continues as time goes on in terms of savings to the federal government. At the same time, the work that we need to get done, like everything that I just said, is also getting done.
Right.
I think that people, I for the life of me don't know anybody that wants to be a coal miner. It's something that is a good paying job, but the long-term health aspects of it,
Right.
But if you have the choice to make good money and not have to do that, chances are you probably will say, hey, you know what, I'm looking at this experience. My grandfather was a coal miner. When he was working, he got black lung and his pension was not honored. And the black lung fund that was supposed to pay him isn't paying him. Maybe I don't want to do that.
Right.
And it goes back to like, we have things and jobs that need to get done that these people need to do.
No, I agree. There's so many jobs that can get filled by people who need them. You know, they just have to know or be aware of them. And you know, that we were talking about last week. You know, Delta claims that there's a shortage, but you can't have a shortage when you fire half your staff because you want to keep, you know, the PP loans for the executives and everybody up top. Like that's not how this works. And you can't claim there's a shortage when there's not. You don't want to hire the people. That's the problem. You want to be. I won't get into. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying. I also think that after this pandemic, people now know their value, and you're not just going to stick me with a job where I'm supposed to go in during a pandemic. Still, we're not out of this thing completely yet, but you're not going to stick me in a job that I have to go into, put myself at risk, my family at risk, and then also cut my hours and only work me enough to where I get stuff done for you, but not enough to give me health insurance for when I do get sick. Right. And I'm as my grandma would say, daycare. SOL, and pay my daycare. Yeah. So I think that we need to take a hard look at some of these employers for these fast food companies and things like that. I hear it all the time. Oh, we pay $15 an hour for these jobs. Hey, they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be for teenagers, and our burgers will be $8 for a burger. And I look at companies like In-N-Out here in California that pay $18 to $22 an hour. Wow. And a double cheeseburger is $4.27.
It can be done.
I'm just saying, when you're not greedy, you know,
right?
When companies share the profit of their business with their employees,
right?
Wonderful things happen. You get happy people. You have people that if they do get sick, no, I'm not going to go in today. I'm feeling under the weather, and they have the sick leave that pays them, and then you're good because you don't have someone coughing on the fries, you know?
Right.
Right.
And it's you as an employee, you feel better. Like you like going to work. And sometimes like, dang, I know I'm sick, but I want to go in because the environment. You know that one, you're working at a good company, wherever it may be. You're getting paid well. You have the benefits that you need. Just like you said, if you get sick, you know what? I'm gonna stay home today. Of course, if you're not abusing that, but we won't get into that. But you have these things around you that make you feel better as an employee. You have good job, you got benefits, and if you're married, your wife and kids can take advantage of the benefits and healthcare. And again, you want to come to work. You feel happy, like, yo, I got all of this. I want to do more. But a lot of companies don't think like that.
I did the Disney college program at Walt Disney World during college, because that was always a dream of mine, right? I want to work at Disney.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to be a guest relations host and VIP tours. I know what it's like when you love your job and you just come to work, like, hey, everybody. And everyone's always like, oh, Disney workers, why they're so happy. Maybe some of it was that, but in my particular job, I got to play all day. Mm-hmm. So I was really happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. right.
My wife didn't have the same experience. I remember working and thinking to myself, I was making okay money. It wasn't like enough to write home about. It's also Florida, so it's like their minimum wage is still $7.25. So I think I was making $12. So I was like, it's cool, $12 an hour. But I was like, I got to ride rides, meet cool people. I wasn't really like working. And I was like, I can't believe they pay me to do this.
Yeah.
It was a different story for my wife. She absolutely hated it. He was like, they're not paying me enough to be this happy.
I'm out of here.
Right. No, thank you. I mean, thank you so much for answering those grueling questions, being with us. For everybody that's viewing, we are about to get into the last stretch of the show and the interview with Mr. Lourin Hubbard. So with that, we're actually about to change gears and get into Lana's lightning round. We're gonna switch it up, get a little more fun. So with that, again, Miss Lana, you have the floor.
Last segment. So first question: first concert you've ever gone to?
Ooh.
First concert I ever went to was actually John Mayer. Michael Franti opened for John Mayer and at HP Pavilion in San Jose.
Wow.
And it was awesome. I'm a big, I don't play guitar myself. I'm a drummer by trade. So I'm a really big guitar guy. And I remember my mom having a significant album collection with like Wes Montgomery and like Muddy Waters or B.B. King. And so like the guitar is always like,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big guitar guy, and John Mayer, he's a white cat with soul, man. I don't know what to tell
you. He is. So with that being said, your last concert
was actually a lifelong dream. My last concert I went to was Garth Brooks.
Wow.
And it was awesome. The opener, I don't even remember who the openers were for him, but I think Joe Nichols was one.
You saw Garth. You saw Garth.
But Garth Brooks, it was awesome. He put on a hell of a show.
Wow, I've heard that. Next question: climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
Ooh, this is tough. I don't like heights, and I feel like I would maybe. If someone pushed me, I could do it. But hiking a mountain. So my wife grew up in Yosemite out here, and so she likes hiking and all that jazz. And I'm just like, I'm not really what you call outdoorsy. Like my idea of camping is to.
You can't even answer this.
Let's go over there.
Like
so I'm gonna say plane.
It's like neither.
I'm gonna say plain because the level of difficulty for hiking a mountain and I still be able to fall into my death is still a reality. I'm gonna say plain because at least I'm attached to somebody, hopefully, and they jump and I'm just with them.
Right.
Right.
That's good. That's good. All right. Did you ever believe in Santa Claus?
I did, probably
Really?
for a not healthy amount of time. So like 7 or 8, and I would like tell my little sister, be like, "Shh, it's time to go to bed on Christmas Eve." You're like, "It's time to go to bed."
Your little sister's probably like, what? What?
Right.
Santa Claus? That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
Name a movie you've seen more than twice.
Rush Hour 2.
Nice. Are tomatoes a fruit or vegetable?
I've never used them as a fruit, but I guess technically they are.
All right. A favorite song that you like to sing?
Oh, can I sing it?
Yes, that's why we
Yeah.
Oh,
asked
nice. Since we've been together,
Uh-oh.
oh, loving you forever
Okay.
is what I need.
Okay, Alan, you can't.
Oh.
You beat Alan.
Oh, we got some.
Now
Yeah,
you-
I'm sorry, Mr.
Come
Allen.
on.
So brand new.
Oh.
Come on with that. Come on.
But I also like the Isley Brothers, but it's kind of like, not an appropriate song, I guess.
Yeah.
In between the sheets.
Yeah. Come on. Who did not like that? That was like my favorite. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you shot up to the top with that one.
I'm from my mom and grandma's to blame for that one. From the era of doo-wopping and show stopping.
Yeah, come on.
Right.
I love it, man. Getting some Sam Cooke too. Get that.
Oh, don't play.
All right. I'm gonna go on, skip some questions and ask you one last question so we can get you out of here. If you could change one law or a piece of legislation, which would it be and why? I know that's not really a lightning type.
To change one law or piece of legislation.
Yeah.
Not like create a whole new one.
Yeah, just change it.
Okay.
I mean, you could change it. You could swap out. I guess that's technically changed.
Well, I mean, I think the legislation was right. I just think the Supreme Court decision to get the Voting Rights Act was not right. But to change, I would change the 13th Amendment. And that law, that portion of the 13th Amendment that said servitude was okay as part of punishment, because I think that has been used devastatingly to get labor from Black and brown folks to get things, to build things for these corporations and these companies to get rich with our backs and our toil.
Right.
And that it incentivized the incarceration of people. Right. And I think it's in a country that talks and prides itself on freedom and liberty, the fact that we lead the world in the number of incarcerated people per capita is shameful. Right. And to me, it's directly related to the servitude and the work that people do for pennies, so the corporations don't have to actually pay a living wage.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. Thank you, Lourin.
That's awesome. That was awesome. Well, everybody, we are getting to the very, very last little bit of the show. Again, I do want to thank Mr. Lourin Hubbard for joining us this evening. I hope everybody shares this link. A lot of good information was presented tonight on why he's a good fit for candidacy. But with that being said, before we officially end the show, what's after everything you got to talk about tonight? what is the one thing that you would like people to walk away with tonight? Again, after everything you said, even if it was something you didn't get a chance to say, what would you like the people to walk away with?
I think if there's one thing that I want people to walk away from is the fact that they themselves deserve to be invested in. You know, one thing with the thought that I want to leave people with is this. I get told this all the time because although I'm not young anymore, I still think I'm young. I guess 32 is kind of the cusp. I start falling apart. My knees, man. It's not the years, it's the mileage. But one of the thoughts that I want people to take away from is that for, we are the first generation of folks that are projected to have a worse outcome than the one before us. And I think that it's time for people to say that they deserve to be invested in, that these things aren't radical, that in our own Constitution, it is the job of the federal government to promote the general welfare of its people. And I think that it's time that we start thinking of ourselves as worthy and deserving of investment.
Yes,
that's
very
so
nice.
true. I dig it. We are. So with that being said, can you give out websites or anything where people can reach you and donate?
Absolutely. Donations, volunteer. We need all of the above. You could go to Lourin, Lourin, Hubbard, HUBBARD, one word, .com is where you can find our information about our website. And I'm on Twitter at Lourin Hubbard. And we have a Facebook page for the Lourin for Congress on Facebook.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you, Lourin.
Well,
that was amazing.
Yes, thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
are going to wrap up the show. So everything that he talked about, his website, social medias, all that will be in the description after the show. So please go out, donate if you can. Unfortunately, the way it's set up, we got to have the money to win these elections. So please donate what you can. And if you're in the state of California in District 22, please volunteer and donate. This gentleman, we got to put him in Congress. Devin Nunes got to go. With that being said, we got to go too. So have a great night. Please tune in next week for another awesome show of What's Up People News. We're out. Again, thank you, Mr. Lourin Hubbard, for being with us. And we'll see everybody next